Welcome to Alberta Conservation Association's Harvest Your Own podcast, the resource for everything hunting, navigating through the field, the butcher shop, and the kitchen. Life is all about great food. Let's get started.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Brad Fenson, an avid outdoor enthusiast who has worked as a freelance journalist, photographer, and public speaker for over 3 decades. I have hunted, fished, and foraged all my life and hope to share my passion for the outdoors. Along the way, I want to encourage everyone to harvest wild proteins and enjoy the satisfaction of providing the next meal for your family. Our goal is to educate, entertain, and inspire individuals to get outdoors and create a connection between food, health, and your future meals. Welcome to Harvest Your Own. We got a special guest this morning talking to us about hunter education. Bob Gruszecki. I'd have to describe you as a hunter, angler, rancher, author, hunting mentor, and most importantly, father and husband. How are you today, Bob?
I'm doing great. It's a good day to be alive.
It is. Did I miss anything in my intro?
The only thing I would add, I will take those monikers and be very pleased with them. But the one thing I'm probably most proud of is I'm a grandpa now. Yeah, I love it. I got 2 of the most wonderful grandkids on the planet, Brody and Sawyer. I love them to bits.
Well, there's some definite future hunting partners for you, I'm sure.
Sure hoping so. Yeah, you bet.
Share with the audience a little bit about Bob. Give us some of your background and who you are.
Oh, gee, I'm whoever my dear spouse allows me to be. I've been involved in hunter education from the time pretty much this program began. So I've been around a long time in that realm. My personal background, I was born in Calgary. I've grown up on a farm. I live on a farm now, and we have horses and other livestock, and get to see the beautiful mountains every day. We chose to raise our kids with that kind of a background. My work experience, I guess I spent most of it in corporate Canada. Ran one of Canada's multinational corporations for 20 years. And before that, I was a police officer in Calgary. And now I dedicate myself to conservation education and some charities that I look after to try and give back and do some philanthropy and make sure that we can perpetuate the things that many people can improve their lives by being associated with, one of which is the great outdoors.
Well, it sounds like a very busy, rewarding life, but I'm sure the hats that you like to wear the most are grandpa and educator.
And it's interesting how both of those are combined.
Exactly. Diving into hunter education, it's very fun to me. I took hunter ed about 45 years ago. I'm sort of aging myself right now. But it's one of those monumental moments in your life. Like, I remember it better than my graduation or when I got my driver's license. It was a life-changing event that was more than exciting to me. I was, nervous about writing the test and passing because everything was focused on me being able to go out with my dad and go hunting. So hunter ed has always been near and dear to my heart. I've helped lots of people take courses, but let's start right at the beginning. Alberta's had hunter ed before most jurisdictions in North America. They sort of led the charge, created the model. Tell us a little bit about the history of it.
Sure. Well, the program began in 1964, and it began as a result of what at the time was a recurring number of firearms or hunting-related accidents. So the provincial government decided that it would be smart to take and come up with a syllabus of some sort to begin to train people to avoid those kinds of common mistakes, misidentification, bad firearms use, and so on. So out of that need grew the hunter education program. The provincial government created a department and staffed it with a handful of people. And over the years, it kind of grew and got to a spot where they were training I think in 1982, there was about 3,000 graduates. And in about 1982, that was about the time when the Klein era had decided that there was going to be some cutbacks in budgets and things like that we were working on provincially from a finance perspective. They needed to take and be laser focused on certain things, and hunter education was not one of them. So we came forward with the volunteers that were running the program at the time, because the Fish and Wildlife staff were basically leaders, and then the program was delivered by volunteers, which made the model unique in North America. Most jurisdictions had a hunter safety coordinator that was employed, and then they would run a class. But the reason Alberta took off and went like mad is because there was volunteers involved, and they were the actual workforce, guided and led by somebody who was a staff member for the provincial government at the time. So around 82, along comes the need to kill the program. And so with a little bit of advance notice, knowing that this was happening, we developed and created a charitable foundation to take over the responsibility and assume the leadership role that was up until then provincial government. So then the Alberta Hunter Education Instructors Association was created. And we then assumed responsibility, combined with the Conservation Education Wise Foundation just a year or so later as an additional funding tool to take and deliver these programs. So there's a number of assets that were needed to purchase, camps and buildings and training centers and, all the accoutrements that are necessary to deliver the program, such as firearms and ammunition and boats and you name it. So those types of things were transferred or purchased from the provincial government, and then we bought a bunch more, and the thing has just grown since. So when we took the program over in 1982, the provincial government was graduating about 3,000 students. I remember making the promise to the then premier that we would grow the program to about 3,500 in the first year, but we could expect within 2 years to be at 5,000 graduates. So at the end of the second year, we went back with our report that we were just a little over 10,500 students. And now, where are we at? 56 years after the beginning of the program, we're now graduating over 110,000 students a year every year. So the program has really grown. The number of offerings, the different types of classes. Remember when this thing started, it was just the hunter education, which was basically, even at the time, wasn't a requirement at law. But we did the hunter education, which helped them identify these farms-related incidents. We were so successful in the delivery of the program that Alberta shortly thereafter said, well, we've stemmed the flow of farms-related accidents and hunting-related accidents. We're going to introduce camouflage clothing, and we've maintained that ability to have camouflage clothing for the past many decades now as a result of what has turned out to be a pretty safe environment. The course is now mandatory, and as a result of that, everybody who enters the outdoors to hunt needs to take this course. They need to graduate. And the same thing goes now with firearms education as a component of the hunting. If you're going to hunt with a gun, then you have to take a firearm safety program, which we've also added to the plethora of training programs that we offer. So that's a synopsis of how we got to where we're at.
Yeah, that's years of work and effort and fundraising and teachers and volunteers and taking it from a manual and a simple course into something that's much larger and benefits way more people and makes it available to everyone. And knowing the history of it is important to a lot of people. Alberta has become the leader, and a lot of other jurisdictions in North America are using the model and even the information that has been developed here. So, if you've ever wanted to take Hunter Ed, know that you've got the premier course and the premier material that sort of sets the standard, which is something to brag about, I believe.
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head. We are leaders, and a lot of that is a direct result of what I think is probably the largest, most successful collaboration between government and volunteers in our province's history. We've now graduated just a little over 2.5 million students in the history of the program. There's 64 jurisdictions in North America that deliver the hunter education program, and virtually all of them use at least part of our curriculum, but over 50 of them use our material, and we've given them permission to change the cover and just use our material. So I guess one of the reasons that Alberta's program is successful is A, the partnership with government, but B, the collaboration between the public who believe that wildlife and wild places need to be part of people's value system. They become the workforce that then spread the news. And so right now there's 3,400 volunteer instructors in the Alberta Hunter Ed Instructors Association from all walks of life. Courses are taught everywhere that people can gather. And then on top of that, there's the new initiatives, which is the electronic training, which seems to be the modus operandi for the millennials and thereafter. So we're really lucky. We've got probably the best program anywhere. The program that we run has been noted as the best by many institutions, including the International Association of Hunter Safety Coordinators. We've got a number of awards that are cool, but the biggest reward and award is the shining lights in the eyes of the people that are getting their fire turned on to be connected and interested in the whole philosophy and concept of wildlife and wild places. And if they choose to hunt, we'll teach them how to do that ethically, morally, responsibly, and legally. If they choose to participate in the outdoors as a non-consumptive resource user, there's many of our programs that deal directly with that. But the opportunity is here, and we're really proud of that.
You know, it's quite an achievement to create an education army of volunteers, and that's really what it is. It's in every community in Alberta. Anyone that wants to take Hunter Ed has instruction. But what I'd really like to know is how you had the foresight to develop an online course ahead of a world pandemic.
Well, the online course, I can remember bringing the concept of the online course to our directors and the people that I report to, and they thought I was nuts. And that was probably 15 years ago now. So the original online course began, and it was nothing more than what technology would allow us, which was a scan of our manual that someone could read online. And, it was a bit better than that. But now, I mean, I would like to say that I'm, this brilliant individual, but I'm not. We actually got asked by Minister at the time, Ted Morton, who said, Bob, we really need to find a way to get this good quality education available to people across this province 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the only way I could conceive that something like that would be possible would be to really beef up the online education. So Dr. Ted Morton, a great friend of conservation and education in the province, was probably one of the biggest impetuses for us putting our energy and efforts and quite a bit of resources, cash as well, into the program to make it what it is now. And it's, I'm telling you, it's a full-time job making sure that we stay abreast of the changes, but it's worth it because the number of people that go through our programs or find it as an entry point to coming to a class to learn more, to whet their appetite. Look at the hunter numbers in the province. I mean, while most jurisdictions have not been able to maintain hunter numbers, on a 10-year moving average, Alberta is the only jurisdiction in North America that's seen an increase in hunter numbers over the last 3 years. So some of that is directly responsible. I would say conservation education programming is partially responsible for that. The interest, the enthusiasm, and the happenstance of the volunteers is a big part of it. We have such a great big workforce in the province that people spread good news, and that's what the remaining part is. And clearly, the partnership we have with our provincial government, who not only understands they can't do this by themselves, but there are experts in the education field, and especially in the hunting and angling community, and they partnered with us. And like I said before, it's probably one of the most underrated, unsung stories of success in volunteerism in the province of Alberta's history.
This podcast is produced for Harvest Your Own, a program dedicated to those who want to reconnect with food and health through their experiences outdoors. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a resource for individuals to learn more about hunting and the outdoors. There's information to get you started and ensure that your compass stays pointed in the right direction to be successful. Where's your next meal coming from?
Well, the unique part of it is that it keeps growing. There's more ways for people to take the course, whether they come into an AHIA classroom, whether you've got it into the school programs, and now you have it online. The number one question I hear from people is who should take the course? Maybe we should start What's the age requirement for anyone to be able to take the course to start with?
Well, I mean, we'll offer the program to anybody that wants to take it. When I say the program, if we talk about the legalities, in order to be certified in the province of Alberta to hunt, you can get a hunting license when you're 10 years old. So we offer the program for certification to 10 years of age and up. We have mentorship programs and a number of other programs that teach people everything from what the regulations are to the equipment, techniques, how to cook your catch, safety, ethical behavior, legal responsibilities. And those programs have people of all ages. I think in our mentorship program last year, even during the pandemic, the oldest person was 85, who was a first-time hunter, believe it or not, and the youngest was a 10-year-old. So, I mean, everybody that's interested in Alberta's flora and fauna, the subject matter is such that there's a spot for you somewhere in our training courses and our programs, whether it be online or in a class or being mentored to one-on-one or in a seminar or a program that we offer. There is a spot for you if you have even the slightest inclination that you might be interested in Alberta's outdoors.
Yeah, there really is a spot for everyone. And a lot of people are intimidated because it's education. It's like going to high school for the first day and you don't know who you're going to meet or what to expect or what's going to happen. But the program is very welcoming, and it is very well suited for bringing all members of the family or your friends or someone else that might support you and not even be interested. And I've seen that a lot over the years. I've taken Hunter Ed with several family members and got to refresh a number of things and have some input in the course. And, it's more than just education. It's entertainment. It's true life stories of how people use what they're learning in the course. So there's lots of ways to put it to good use. And right now, are you running any classrooms at all, Bob, or is it all online?
Well, our head office in Calgary and our office in Edmonton is closed to the public. We do curbside service for materials and information that's needed, but there are a few communities and a few schools where we do go and teach a class. So they can find that information on the website. They can go to hia.com and click on training and see where the programs and courses are. And they can also click on the name of the town they're from, and then an instructor that we have that's been certified to deliver basically any of our programs: hunter ed, fishing ed, boat safety, firearm safety. And I just mentioned the legal required ones, the certificate programs. There's lots of others, but their names and phone numbers are there, and then they can connect with them to see if they've got a class. So yes, short answer, yes, some classes are operating right now during the pandemic. They have to abide by the restrictions of social gatherings. People are forced to wear a mask. Everything is disinfected. For example, in a firearms class, when lots of handling is required before another person can touch the firearm, it has to be disinfected and so on. And so far, it's actually, everybody seems to be getting the courses they need. I know that when people are being putting themselves on waiting lists so that when they're able to gather again in large numbers in classrooms, they'll be tickled pink to get back in. And we've got large waiting lists. And we're hoping soon that those regulations will be such that the pandemic has subsided enough that we can then trust the conditions so that we can begin these in-classroom training. Our outdoor facilities are operating, and we are not allowed to bring people into the centers, but for example, the Calgary Farm Center or the Alfred Lake facility that we have, they can come to the range. We can do things on the range with them. There's restrictions to the numbers and so on. For example, Provincial Hunting Day, we normally get 400 people to attend the Provincial Hunting Day event. We were restricted to 100 people, and then social gathering sizes and distances between people on the ranges was required. But, feels bad to turn 300 people away. But we know that there'll be a time when we'll be able to bring them back and get them going. The online thing is on fire. Everybody's taking online training right now. I think maybe one of the reasons we've seen such an increase in fishing and angler numbers in Alberta is, we put a ton of people through a fishing education program. We developed a number of programs specifically during the pandemic to keep people connected to the outdoors for their mental well-being and for their further education. And When you start getting the numbers of people through our programs electronically that we are, it's a gateway to get them interested, and it's showing positive signs.
Absolutely. We're 1 year into this world pandemic, and I thought it was very important to get this information out. These programs are wonderful. They're available in many different ways, and people have more time on their hands, hopefully, with the pandemic.
Boy, they sure do.
And we're continuing to see growth in hunter numbers, and especially with women and youth, which is wonderful. And it's a great time to consider taking the course. And we talk about hunter ed, but you brought up a good point. Anyone that wants to also hunt needs to take a firearm safety course. So the two would go hand in hand, and you offer them together, and you offer them both online.
Yep. Right. And boat safety as well. There's another federally regulated program that people have to have a license in order to operate a motor vessel on the province of Alberta. So that's available. They can get their license online to do that. But, there's a lot of other things. During the pandemic, I can't tell you the number of schools that were interested in logging in and using the resources. Everybody was looking for something to keep kids busy, either in home or those that were attending schools. So during the pandemic, we developed, 20 total online type training and interactive programs. We've got workbooks. We've got a YouTube channel. One of the YouTube workbooks we developed was, just as an example, people were saying, hey, I want more information about, pick one, shotgun chokes. People, I've been involved in hunting. Now I want to get into birds or clay targets. What's this stuff about chokes? So we developed a workbook, and then we have a YouTube channel and developed an accompanying video with that workbook. That one particular workbook has been viewed a little over 25,000 times. And I think the total number of hours now that's been downloaded is something like 3,500 hours. And that's only been up for a few months. So, during the pandemic, we have a junior wildlife workbook where people learn about what's out there in the woods. There's one on knots, building a survival kit, tick awareness. We're coming into the spring. We're going to have to be thinking about tick season, firearm safety, a whole bunch of things on food, jerky, sausage, duck poppers, boat safety, how to tie a fly, a particularly popular fly, a map and compass, and the list is long. So if people go to our website or to our YouTube channel, there's everything. There's programs there for everybody from kindergarten age right through to, as I mentioned, an 85-year-old who took the Mentored Hunter program last year.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. I went back onto the AHIA page just as a refresher and thought, I'll spend 5 minutes here just going over everything. An hour later, I still hadn't clicked through everything, and now I know there's more I have to go back and check because it was of interest without a doubt.
One of the ones that we're really proud of is one that most people wouldn't think would be part of hunter education, and that's this KidWise firearm safety. So we use a bunch of cartoon characters, and we've developed a program where schools, and this is both done in classroom as well as online, but teachers can pull off coloring books and training tools. And whether they're a hunter or not makes no difference. We use a tool so that, and we're going to just about every kindergarten, or we've made it available to every kindergarten in the province. But one of our instructors will go to the kindergarten and they'll talk to the kids about, okay, so you're playing at little Timmy's house and you guys are playing hide and seek and you hide in the closet and all of a sudden you find a gun. Now what do you do? So the whole program is, look, we found a gun. What do you do? Who do you tell? And what are you supposed to do? So we use a police officer as a character, grandpa as a character, and we use a store owner who sells firearms as a character. And through interactions and coloring and little training type things, we start helping young people understand that firearms are part of our society and our lives. And if you come across one, they're not owned by bad people. They're owned by doctors and lawyers and your next door neighbor and probably one in your house. So we teach them what they're supposed to do when they come across one. And we take training from that very innocent level without trying to take and indoctrinate anybody, just help them understand how to be safe. And then we go all the way to the nth degree to run a program on, I don't know, how to tie a knot to be able to secure their boat, or to be very specific and, go on into things like how to remove a tick, or how to build a survival kit to better enjoy your experience. So it's not just the hunting, although that is what our organization was founded to do. It's much more than that, because we found that as educators, we've been asked by the public, hey, this is great. Your model is wonderful. What you do is amazing. The fact that you've whet our appetite and given us a chance to explore this outdoors and open new horizons for me is so exciting. What else you got? So we keep responding and adding more and more all the time. There's lots to see.
Influencing and educating generations. And when I look at the number of graduates you have of your program, you can literally say that it's been generations of Albertans that are walking away with knowledge and education that they'll carry with them for life. So very important programs, very influential, and they're well designed for the whole family and different age levels.
This podcast was made possible by Alberta Conservation Association and the Harvest Your Own community. If you're interested in harvesting your own food, there's a comprehensive collection of information to gain insight and knowledge. Head to the field, harvest your own protein, prepare it, and taste the results. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a library of information, from getting started and geared up to processing, butchering, and cooking wild game to make the connection between health and food.
We're going to skip back to the Hunter Ed course here real quick. I just wanted to provide a little more information on it. There's 12 modules. The modules are timed so that to make sure that people go through them properly. Is that correct? Is that why they're timed?
Yeah, so you're talking about the online hunter education now. So the modules are split up into a number of different key components that are necessary for them to understand what's expected of them and how they can contribute to be a better hunter in the province. So each module has a time limit. They can take as long as they need to go through the module. So in other words, if little Timmy is starting to be a hunter and he logs into his program, and he has to go to hockey that night, he can save where he's at, come back next week, the next day, the next hour, or maybe he's going to school. He can log even in now on the bus, because we've changed the program to be able to operate on smartphones and, all kinds of training tools. The people aren't just on static computers anymore. So tablets, smartphones, and pretty much everything else. The program is made to operate well there. And they can log in and go back in, but they have to go through each chapter. So they can't just let it play and then somebody do the test for them. They have to let it play. They have to watch it. They have to participate. There's quizzes they have to pass in each of the chapters that is an indicator to us that they've been through, that learning took place. Then once the role of a hunter, all the way down to legal responsibilities and identification and so on. Once that's done, then they're entitled to take a test. And that test, they have to get a pass mark of 80% or more. And if they do, then we send them a certificate and they get a number assigned to them. We share that number with enforcement and Fish and Wildlife, and they then, if they stop and come across somebody in the woods and they ask them if they've got a hunting license, they can check and see in a matter of seconds whether or not the individual actually graduated the hunter education program or not.
Yeah, so the online course is very pertinent for today, talking about COVID-19 days. It's a great time to sign up your whole family to take it, and I love the fact that you've got quizzes in there built in, because it takes the intimidation out of a final exam. Basically, if you run through all the different modules and take the quizzes, you should be prepared for the exam very well.
No question. And while the online training programs that we do were never intended to replace the one-on-one or the classroom-style training, the modern education standards today are such that when I stood in front of a class and talked about elk, I could, show pictures and I could, bring some props in and I could make some calls and I could kind of make them engaged. But on the online program, I can actually put a video on there. I can put different angles. They can push a button and hear the sound of a cow elk, a bull moose. There's so many different interactions that they get. And the best part is if Timmy learns at a different speed than Brad or Bob, then Timmy can play it back again and again and again and again. And after he's graduated and he's getting ready to go hunting with his grandpa or dad, and he says, I better go and refresh our memory, he just logs back in and he takes a look and he says, well, we're after mule deer today, and he can get a little bit of a brief education. Sure, you can get that from a manual, but once you've taken a class and you've had that interaction with the instructor, you can't recreate that moment. Whereas online, they can do all these refreshers, and once they've done the program, they can go back in for the rest of their life and log in free and take a look and understand more. And there are avenues that they can pursue. There's a required minimum, and if they want to learn more about it, I mean, so now you've harvested your elk. Now what? I mean, it's not a requirement at law to know how to gut an animal, but once they've done the elk and they've shot their first elk or mule deer, whatever cloven-hoofed animal they've got, we have apps that they can dial up. If they've got phone service, or if they download it and save it to their phone, they can get step-by-step instructions on, okay, now it's on the ground, what do I do? If we weren't able to teach them through a mentored program or in-classroom structure, or if they missed that part during the online training or they want a refresher, you can just look at the app and say, all right, first cut is here, watch out for the diaphragm, take this, do that, and so on. So, I mean, it's a pretty effective tool, the online education part of this. I mean, if somebody is really determined to understand, this is the place.
You know, and that's the beauty of it. I look at Hunter Ed as encompassing everything from conservation, education, survival. You know, it's a complete package of everything that you're going to know and come up against, or even things that are related, like how does hunting play into wildlife management and survival, even the field techniques, first aid, dealing with hypothermia, and of course the legal responsibilities. You know, a lot of these questions are very daunting to people, but it is all laid out there, very simple for them to absorb, walk away with the knowledge, not having to refresh and look at a book that second, but it becomes second nature. Oh yeah, I took that in Hunter Ed. I remember that. And, you know, after 45 years, it still sticks out to me. One of the things that I remember taking Hunter Ed all those years ago, mine was definitely in classroom, and there were people spoke to us about different modules and different things. But on the survival one, our instructor told us about fear, and he said, the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. And years later, I used that when I was on a goat hunt and we got snowed in and had to hike approximately 180 miles to get out of the mountains. I lost a pile of weight, and that saying from my instructor went through my mind 1,000 times if it went through once. And it was very interesting how that education that I had received decades earlier stuck with me. So these courses are very important, and it's sometimes it's hard to understand how you influence people, but it is very positive. And I think we've given a pretty good overlay of the programs. Let's just tell people where they can go to get more information. We'll start there.
Yeah, I think all the phone numbers and the contact numbers provincially, we're everywhere in the province. The best place to go is to ahea.com, AHEIA.com. And that website is pretty navigable, and there's lots of opportunities. You can see who we are, how to get involved, what our events are. You can see all the programs and the courses that we offer. And there is literally a plethora of training available. And it's for good reason, because we really do need to educate people on the importance of protecting wildlife and wild places that we all love for the reasons that you spoke about. I mean, that's why we do what we do. It's worth protecting and perpetuating.
Yes, Alberta's a special place, and most of us live here because of the aesthetics and the wildlife and the opportunities and what we see when we look out our windows. And I know when you look out your window, you've got elk and mountains and all the rest of it, but any of the landscapes in Alberta are very unique and provide lots of wildlife and biodiversity that we should all cherish very much. So I want to thank you for coming in today.
That's the best statement I've heard yet about why we do what we do, because you nailed it, Brad. At the end of the day, we do this because our lives are better by being connected to wildlife and wild places.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I mean, there isn't a day go by that I don't think about it. My girls get up in the morning and greet the sun when it comes over the horizon, and we have a very different place. I've got moose and elk ribs hanging in our trees after I've butchered them. And during the cold snap we had up to 100 woodpeckers and chickadees eating on them. So they know all
I love it.
Yeah. Yep. So life is what you make it. And this is a set of courses. And I'll say it's a set because everything from bear awareness and sheep and fishing and operating crafts and hunter ed and firearm safety. And it's a whole suite of opportunity to learn, and not only learn for licensing or legal requirements, but learn for appreciation. Lots of times we overlook what's right in our backyard, and this just helps to create more of an appreciation of where we are and what we have at hand to improve our quality of life.
I couldn't agree more. I want to just thank you for the opportunity, but I also want to say thanks for doing what you do to spread the news of how wonderful it is to be able to explore and participate in and be part of wildlife and the places that we have in Alberta. We're very lucky here to have these resources, and we're lucky also that we have people like you that spread the news. So thanks for what you do. Keep doing it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming in today. Obviously, a lot of information available on the HIA website and Harvest Your Own. So listen again on the next episode and check out those web pages in the meantime. Thanks for joining us today. We hope to inspire people to reconnect with nature and appreciate where your food comes from by harvesting your own. For more information on getting started or to learn specifics about the Field to Fork experience, visit harvestyourown.ca and follow on Facebook and Instagram. Check back often for new material, recipes, and videos that are posted regularly. Please subscribe to Harvest Your Own podcast and take the time to rate and review the show to help us build a dedicated core of passionate hunters as our regular audience. Until next time, embrace the outdoors and all it has to offer. Thanks for joining us.